Thea Mickell for the Loons Theatre.
Rowan Morgan is with me.
Oh, okay. I think I'll sit back on this. I know one of the...
Hello everyone, I'm Thea Mickell, the treasurer for the Loons Club Inc. and on my right
is Rowan Morgan. I'm on the executive committee and I've been game enough to put my head above the parapet and project manage the build thus far. So
I wonder, has everybody received and read
Yes.
the original submission? So you have a little bit of a pre-say of our history and the story and where we are at the moment. And also being delivered is what we call our background document, which continues to be updated constantly. And we thought we'd go through that document with you and talk about our project.
So we've amended our constitution to clarify our objectives. Effectively, we are focused on providing a performing arts venue for the people of Littleton and the wider Christchurch population. So our core values are steadfast as a non-for-profit social enterprise, inclusive and supportive of our community and its arts practitioners. We are a charity and an incorporated society. So the Loons Club Incorporated was formerly the Littleton Working Men's Club, the LWMC, and it's been part of the Littleton community since 1948. The premises at 16 Canterbury Street were gifted to us in 1951 by the Littleton Waterside Workers Social Club. Now, the building itself dates from 1905 as near as we can make out, and it ran a gamut of commercial enterprises, groceries, chemist, and the Loons Garage and Bicycle Repair Shop, which we have some photographic evidence of, and that's sort of where the name derived from. The building was purchased in 1944 by three Watersiders and converted it into the Watersiders Social Club, and it's been known as the Loons affectionately ever since. Now, 1951 was a pretty significant year socially and politically. As I'm sure you're aware, the 1951 waterfront dispute rent the Littleton community effectively, and the government declared a state of emergency on the 21st of February, and the workers were locked out. The Loons kind of served as a haven for feeding people and providing effectively social aid to people who were cut off from their livelihoods. And as part of that whole emergency regulations that the government imposed, they attempted to confiscate some union assets. So the Waterside workers transferred the name, the asset, to the Littleton Working Men's Club, and it's remained so ever since. So there's some fairly interesting history, and it's still a hot potato with the old folk round Littleton. So the club itself, the Littleton Working Men's Club, it went from strength to strength as an entertainment hub, hosting community events, film nights, fairs, indoor sports. They used to take kids across to Quail Island in small boats for picnics. The rugby club had its inception there, and oddly enough, in this day and age, you look back on it, oddly enough, they on the weekends got the wheelbarrows out and excavated the basement, turned it into a rifle range. So the kids used to learn to shoot in the basement of the Loons.
Not anymore.
No. Yeah, and the membership diminished, and the demographic changed. It was leased to Christchurch Theatre Cabaret Club, who ran it as a theatre company for 4 or 5 years prior to 2011 when the earthquake struck. And bang, hey, the building was unreinforced masonry, and we all know what that means in Christchurch. So we, as the custodians of the building, in the ensuing years, have been focused on the rebuild. It was quantity surveyed to a value of $2.9 million on the initial plans. That was in 2011. We have raised through various sources, which you'll see in the rear of this document, $1.45 million thus far that's been put into the rebuilding program, and the last $450,000 was achieved after the building had effectively been sitting in an idle state. Unclad, yeah. Building paper flapping around in the breeze right in the middle of Littleton. It was a bloody eyesore. We were kind of hitting funding walls left, right and centre, and weren't really too sure what to do. And we were pretty concerned that the deterioration of the building was going to be to such an extent that it may not survive. So we put in a phone call to MUNZ in Wellington, the Maritime Union of New Zealand, to a guy called Joe Fleetwood, who's the National Secretary. And just because of our historic tie, and said, hey guys, can you help us out? And we actually managed to stitch a deal together, surprisingly enough. So they gave us $450,000 with a proviso that we provide them with an admin office in the building, which we have done. So they get that in perpetuity. It also gives them a venue that's big enough for their 300 members to meet in. So it has two benefits for those guys, and they look at it as their spiritual home in Littleton. So it's a working port, and it's good for us to be part of that working culture. So just in terms of where we've got to this date, all of the council consents are all in place. We had to undergo a bit of an amendment process just to get the offices, the two offices that are pretty small in the front of the building, and in the intervening years, 2012, the fire regs changed, so we had to kind of up the ante, and because the building's right on the boundary, we've basically got 120-minute fire rating, so it's kind of serious. So the building's clad. The front of the upstairs, where the box office, the MUNZ offices, the entrance hall, the upstairs toilets are all complete to plan. All the structural work's done. It's been signed off by Structech, so I've got a PS4 in my back pocket, which is nice. The fire alarm's in. The heating and ventilation system is right in throughout the whole building. The electrical has all been completely updated. The new switchboard's in. We've got all the intumescent paint in the basement. For those of you who are not familiar, the building's on 2 levels. The basement that I was referring to before, that was the rifle range, has now been incorporated as a potentially a sort of a hospitality venue that's linked through an internal staircase to the upstairs of the building. Now, both of the floors of the building can be operated independently, and it gives the building in the future it can be very multiversal, and as the winds change, the building can change with it. So all the intumescent paint's in the basement. The street frontage and the facade is done, and we think it's lovely. It's got some stanchions around it that came off a HMS Bulldog, I think it was called, an old British battleship. So the basement floor's done, concrete polished. We've got so much of the building on site, ready to go. Drainage is done. Now we got Julian Mace from Loons to run a ruler over the costs to complete. He did that, so as of sort of 3 weeks ago. So to complete the building, we're looking at, call it $410,000. Turnkey, another $340,000, and by that I mean a soundstage, lighting gantry, theatre curtains, infrared assistance module for hearing impaired, and some seating. Have we?
Yep. That just come to the end of your 10 minutes. Thank you very much. I mean, you've obviously put tons of time and effort into this, so...
We're so close, and it will be...
Under the table.
Yeah, it'll be a fantastic theatre and community facility if we can only finish it, and we're seeking help in whatever way
As
we
a
can.
former resident of Littleton...
You'll know it well.
I know it well, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
very good.
well, look, thank you very much for
Thank you.
Attending today.